this is where I want to begin. Increasing competence, how to get better, okay? So, there's actually 4 competency levels. The first is called unconscious incompetence. You don't know, so you don't care. That's the ignorance is bliss stage. But it's not a good stage to be in. It's something you need to know and you don't even know you don't. One of the things I love about masterminds is someone else asks a question that you should have asked and didn't even know needed to be asked. And suddenly you're aware, wow, that was what I really came for, not my question. So conscious competence, and unconscious competence. So unconscious competence is, I don't know. Blissful ignorance, and I don't care. Too many people are in that state today. And you don't even have a reason to try. Conscious incompetence is you don't know. The people who came here today knew they didn't read fast enough. How many people in Boise could have been here that needed to learn what you just learned and aren't in this room? Hundreds of thousands of people, literally. That's the difference between conscious incompetence, not knowing, and knowing and wanting to do something. Big, big, big difference. You might need some help. Conscious incompetence is you want to find out how to fix the problem. With conscious competence, that's where you are now with reading. You know, but you have to think about it when you're doing it. Where's the schema? Where's my hand? Am I turning the page? So you're learning to ride a bike or drive a car. You have to think a lot to make it happen. You can do it, but there's a lot of thinking. That thinking is slowing you down because part of your brain is thinking, how do I do this? Instead of all your brain doing it. So I want to get you to unconscious competence, moving on, where you don't have to think about it. It's instinctive, like playing the guitar or swimming. You know what you're doing and you're just doing it. And that's going to take you up another notch. So as fast as you are, you're nowhere near your ceiling. So I wanted to show you how to increase your speed. Pick a book, no confusing words or ideas. If you were trying to go backwards and you weren't sure, maybe it's working, maybe it's not, that sometimes happens, try a children's book like Snow White or Cinderella. It's a big picture in 2 words. If you can't read that backwards, you shouldn't be reading backwards. If you can, it means, bless you, when the material is very familiar to you, you can read backwards, which is good when you're reviewing for a test or for a meeting. Things you've learned, you should be able to go backwards, which is always a little quicker. You can see why. It's nice when you could do it, but unfortunately not everyone can. So if that doesn't work, reading in a children's book, don't even try it. It isn't, your brain isn't designed for that. Just go quicker going forwards. Nonfiction for children, like the Earth's round and revolves around the sun. Those aren't ideas that make your head explode. Quantum physics can make most people's heads explode. A nonfiction book you read, since you read it and you understood it, you're reading it again, it's not confusing. Or a book on a subject you know so well, you didn't read this book before, but all the other books that are like it, it's the same information, just new sentences. Or this is a big one. Those books you want to read again. You know those books that sit in the house, say, I really should read this again? This is a good time to do it. What I want you to do is the 16-minute drill. Read, double, triple, read 4 times in a row for about 4 to 6 weeks, 16 minutes a day. If you do that, you'll see a dramatic increase over wherever you are now. As good as you are, you can get much better if you choose to. I can't make you do this. I can tell you if you do this, it'll make a big difference. Now, there's actually 4 steps in reading. You skim, you read, you review, and you question. Constantly questioning. Always ask questions. Skimming is what we're going to do next. Reading is what we did. Reviewing and skimming are what we're going to do now. With skimming, you finish a book in no more than 5 to 15 minutes. A medical book would be 15 minutes. Russell's book, I did it in 4 minutes and 38 seconds. That's a good skim. It's a very good skim. You don't want to spend 4 hours skimming a book. You want to learn the book. Skimming is to get what's in it, where is it, how is it put together, how can I use this? We're going to cover all that as we go into the next phase. Another thing when you're reading, to learn. Keep a pencil or a pen. If it's your book, you can use a pen. If it's a school book, use a pencil. And as you're going back and forth and down, and you see something you didn't understand, you read it, but you don't know what it means, put a line next to it. That means come back and analyze this. I didn't get it. And put a star next to something you need to remember and don't know yet. So that in the third step, when you're reviewing, you're looking for what didn't I understand and what do I need to remember. That's what I'm looking for. So you can make a line into a star by drawing an X through it. You don't know yet if you need to know something if you don't know what it is. After you know what it is, then you can say, this sounds important, I need to know it. Up until then, you don't know what it is, there's no way to make a judgment on it. So when I'm reading, I'm busy making lines and stars, lines and stars. This I need to know, this I need to remember, this I need to think about. I don't understand this. And I'm going to show you in the next hour or so how to handle all those things. When you're skimming, and in a lot of ways, reviewing is a lot like skimming, but slower. You want to use a book structure. I was on Comedy Central, I mentioned at the beginning, and the first time I was on with Dennis Leary, I was on with Jackie Collins. She had just written Lady Boss, which is like 700 pages. And they wanted me to read it in 5 minutes. So before I read the book, the cameraman said, just rub the jacket so I could get a picture of you reading later and I'll know where your hands are going to be. Well, it was a hardcover book, and the jacket had the names of characters, Mike, Mo, Murray, and Mel. Those are actually the names. At 80 pages a minute, Mike and Mo, or Mo and Mel, doesn't look very different. But what I did is I made pictures. One guy looked like a gangster, because he was, and one guy looked like a boyfriend or somebody cute, because he was. And now when the name appeared, instead of hearing Mo or Mel, I saw the picture. Like if you're reading about Trump or Obama or Clinton, there's a picture. Or Mick Jagger or Madonna, there's a picture. The more we can picture, the faster we could go. So even reading the jacket helped me to read the book much better. Now, I mentioned earlier that culture is an important part of what we want to learn. And that's where the foreword and introduction come in. It's the part of the book where the writer writes about themselves. Where did they grow up? What school did they go to? What religion? The things that influence their beliefs and their values. And I want to know that because this may be a very good book, but it's slanted towards their beliefs and their values. And I wouldn't know that without knowing who they are and where they came from and what they believe in. So I skimmed that. An example, I was reading in a poli-sci course the book on capitalism written on Marxism, written by Marx, communism. And in the introduction, it talked about his health problem. He had boils, and he couldn't sit down. So you know where his boils were. And he wrote his book standing up, often for 16 hours at a time. If you've read his book, did he seem happy to you? If you couldn't sit down, how happy would you be? So does that matter? The man was ill. He had a very painful boils, and he couldn't fix it, and he couldn't sit. Would that affect how he felt about the world and life? Is that information relevant, given his impact on the world? I think it is. That's what I'm looking for. Is there anything going on that the text isn't going to say, I'm taking a break now, I need a soak. It's hurting a lot. You know, it's not in the book, but he probably did that because he was in pain. He needed a soak. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking for, something that gives me an insight into the workings of the mind of the writer. So I better understand what they're really doing. If there's an ulterior motive, I want to know it. Suppose this book is called Israel. One writer is Moshe Dayan, who led Israel to the 7 Days War victory. The other is Yasser Arafat, not exactly a big fan of Israel. So The same title on the book, do you expect identical books? No, because culturally, you know, one person was very positive and the other person was very negative. And that's what you're looking for. Anything that might influence their belief or value of the book. Now, in your activity book, we have some sample contents pages. The contents page is a map. It tells you what the book is going to do before it does it. Look in your activity book and you'll see this page. And I'd like you to skim it in like 2 seconds, just top to bottom. And I guess the big question is, what subject is this? What kind of history? Norwegian? Lithuanian? What kind of history is it? American history. You're doing a report on the space shuttle. Based on what you're seeing here, is this a good book for you to use?
Nope.
How do you know?
That's all about old American.
Thank you. How many times have you been in a book for 4 to 6 weeks and then you realize it was the wrong book and you had to get another one and start all over? How long did it take you to find out this was the wrong book? 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Scanning the contents pages at 2 seconds. Several things happen. One, have you ever learned a subject called history? Have you ever learned American history? Was it easy or hard? Was it boring or interesting? Based on that experience, how much time does this book look like it might need? So you already create a timeline. You have a sense of difficulty, of challenge, of interest. These are very important things. It doesn't take a long time to find that out. And if you're doing a report, you actually could see, this isn't what I need. It's the wrong time period. It isn't going to give me what I'm looking for. I need a different book now, not 6 weeks from now, right now. It's very, very efficient. Let's look at the next page in your activity book. We see chapter 11, fish, physiology, mating, and eating. 12, amphibians, physiology, mating, and eating. 13, reptiles, physiology, mating, and eating. 14, birds, physiology, mating. What comes after mating? Eating. What did you learn? The pattern. The pattern. When you start reading fast at the beginning, it's not unusual to feel concerned. I'm going to miss something. I'm going so fast. What if I miss something important? If you know the pattern, and you know the next thing is bird eating, and it is, and you're looking for bird eating, what happens when you look for blue and there's blue? What do you find? Do you find red? No, you find blue. When you know what you're looking for and it's there, and you're looking for it, you find it. It's when you don't know it's there and you're not looking for it that you might miss it. So the contents page is a wonderful way of getting you aware of where you're going, how you're getting there. And I also skim every chapter at the beginning, the whole book, and then every time I go to the next chapter to start reading, I skim it right before I read it to get a map of that chapter. So if there's a picture or a chart or something I could use, I know it's there, and I don't sit scratching my head. I use it when I need it. Not if it's on a different page, I don't care. I know it's there and I need it now. So it saves you a lot of aggravation. It tells you where you're going and how to get there, and you don't miss things when you're looking for them. On the next page, this is in your index, we have an index. Now, this is a psych book, first year psych book. At triple speed or greater, you can't learn new words you never heard of before. What can you do? Recognize the ones you know already, like the faces in the mall. You still don't know the strangers next time. You'll still know the people you know. So I go at very high speed, and the less I recognize, the more I need to learn. The more I recognize, the less I need to learn. So let's just do a quick perception, phobia, play, population, probability. I'm kind of scanning real fast. Compare that to the next page in your activity book, first year bio book. These are I actually took them from my books. Baker's bodies, Balbini rings, Basidiomycetes. Based on what you just saw, which book do you think is going to take longer to learn? The second one. How long did it take to figure that out? Seconds. in school and at work, this is important. You know immediately where you need to put more time. Which book is more confusing? Which book needs more thinking, more study, more memory, more analysis? So you don't find yourself wishing you'd started 3 weeks ago because you thought it was simple. Many books begin by reviewing what you know already. Calculus reviews algebra. Organic chemistry reviews inorganic chemistry. You just took those things, so it looks easy. That's what you just learned. And if you learned it, you recognize it, say, this is easy. Suddenly it's new. It isn't so easy anymore. Well, you're going to know in the content, in the index page, because it's a thorough listing of the whole content of the book. The less you recognize, the harder it is, the more you need to spend time learning it. The more you recognize, the easier it is, the less time you'll need. So you know immediately where to prioritize and where to begin sooner and not delay. It's a very important thing to know when learning. What smart learners do is they skim at the start of a project. And I did that all the time, especially in school. And if I'm in school, I remember I had a semester, I had organic chemistry, calculus, and my easy course. You're always taking French Lit, which was French. You went in, you spoke French, you wrote French, you read French. There was no English. It's all French. That was the easy course. So I knew that was going to be hard. Genetics, calculus, and organic chemistry and French. So I was teaching swimming that summer, and I bought the genetics book, the calculus book, and genetics, calculus, and organic chemistry book. So I studied them all summer. I kept skimming them. So a lot of the words and the ideas, I learned them over the summer because I knew these were really hard books. And when school started, it wasn't starting cold. I already absorbed a lot of the background material that I could learn on my own. I still needed some help. It was hard. So I had people teaching it to me, but I wasn't starting from scratch, which would have been much harder. Now at work, same thing, get a jump on your project. Don't tell them you read 10 times faster. They'll give you 10 times more work and not pay you. So that's not what you're looking for. And remember to read on all 3 levels, literal, implied, and inferential. Asking questions all the time. Asking questions. I was teaching a class in biology on the 5 causes of disease, and I had them all on the board. And I said, does anyone know one of the 5? And they were all on the board. It took 20 minutes. Someone noticed the board and said, bacteria. I said, good answer. What are bacteria? And they looked at me and said, one of the 5 causes of disease. And that was how a lot of the kids learned in school. They knew the answer. They didn't know what they were saying. They knew it was the right word, the right number, the right term. But the significance of it was completely missing. Inferentially, had no idea what they were saying. So, here's what good learners do. What are bacteria? Are all bacteria bad? How are bad ones harmful? How are good ones helpful? How can they help you? How do you prevent an infection? How do you cure an infection? If you're reading a chapter about bacteria and you're thinking about those things, what are the chances you're going to learn more than someone like, oh, I don't want to learn bacteria, it's stupid? Which person's going to learn? The one who's asking questions, curious, wants answers, or someone who doesn't even want to look at it? There's a big difference. Those questions matter. They create the curiosity and the motivation to learn that's missing in so many people's maps. It's why they don't learn. They put in the work, they put in the time, but they sabotage everything they're doing by the wrong thinking. Charts and tables. This is actually your activity book. When I'm going at 80, 90 pages a minute, I don't go, okay, zinc 65.37, ask me another one. I can't do toothpicks either. I'm not Rain Man. At that speed, what I would know on this page is the elements, the symbols, their weights, and their numbers. And the first thing I ask myself is, do I need to know this or know how to use this? There's a big difference in the time it would take to look something up on this table to do chemistry versus knowing every number on that page verbatim. Now, if I'm going to be a chemist, this is my alphabet. I do need to know all of that. I need to know every symbol. I need to know every number. I need to know every weight. That's my alphabet. But if I'm taking one course as a science requirement, probably not. It would be more than enough for me to know how to use what's on this page when I need to use it. So purpose, very, very important. Now, I will teach you today how to learn this. When you have a table with that much data, how to quickly learn it. There is a strategy I'll teach you that allows you to do it very quickly. Not instantaneously, but very quickly. Hard stuff, I call this hard. This is biochemistry. For most people, that's hard. If you're a biologist, well, that's what you do for a living, so not as hard. There's a relativism to what you learn. You do something all the time, it's not hard for you, it may be hard for everyone else. This is glycolysis. And you can see from the names and the steps, it doesn't look like fun for a normal person to have to learn this. How do you learn something that's this hard? I'm going to show you. The first step is get the big picture. What's the big picture? Glycolysis is how cells burn sugar. That's the most used fuel in cells. Since it's the most important fuel in a cell, it sounds like something I'm really going to need to know if I want to be a biologist. So now I have a reason to want to learn it. First thing is, I need to want to learn it. Why would I want to work hard on learning something I don't even know what it is or why I need to know it? Now I know why I need to know it. I have motivation. So cells burn sugar, and then I look for patterns. How is it the same as something I know or different? So day is the same, light is similar to day, and night is the opposite. So I can see by same or different. Patterns create context. Context creates comprehension. Here's a pattern. Big, bigger, biggest. Cell, tissue, organ. Planet, solar system, galaxy. Big, bigger, biggest. That's a pattern. Another pattern. Past, present, future. Common in biography. Common in history. Starts off in the past. Works towards the present. Most books begin beginning, middle, and end. That's also temporal. The pattern we saw was ordinal. This is a cookbook. Step 1, glucose 6-phosphate. Step 2, fructose 6-phosphate. So I know when cells burn sugar, it starts with glucose 6-phosphate, whatever that is, and then it turns into fructose 6-phosphate. So I know step 1, and it's a cookbook. Step 1, step 2. Now I could say, and where does glucose 6-phosphate turn into fructose 6-phosphate? And how does it turn into fructose 6-phosphate? And when does, and so I'm who, what, where, when, why, and how. I have the step. I know it's the first 2 steps in my recipe for making sugar in a cell. And I can now go from one to the other. And then when I have the 2 steps, I can start thinking, okay, where does it happen? When does it happen? How does it happen? And I can fill in the blanks versus I don't know what anything means. I don't know what anything does. I know what these things do. These are the steps that turn into, that allow us to burn sugar in a cell. And I'm looking at each step. How does this turn into this? How does this turn into this? And I'm looking in the cell. Where does it happen in a cell? What makes this happen in a cell? I can learn this now. It's not as challenging because I have a pattern I can work with. And it's true of anything that's challenging. Get the big picture. If I actually knew what I was about to learn, what would I know how to do? What could I do if I learned this? Oh, I think that sounds like something I need to know how to do. What's the first step? What's the second step? How are these 2 steps different? How are they the same? How are they related? How does this turn into this? What do I need to do to go from here to get to? And now you start to learn. Does that make sense? That's how you handle difficult things. Simplify, big picture, and then go into the details. Big picture, then the details. Too many people start with the details, not knowing what the picture is. So they don't know where to put anything or what to do with it. Pictures, very, very important. If I'm reading about the heart and I'm learning about the mitral valve, one of the valves, I don't know where it is. I don't know what it does. But I know on the next page there's a picture and it shows me where the mitral valve is. and what's around it and what it does. Now when I read the text, I can picture the image that shows me where it is and what's around it, and I can connect the dots because I don't just have a blank sheet of paper in my mind with a word that I don't know what it means or what it does. Pictures of visual context, very important. Whenever I read the images and pictures first before I read the text. So when I'm reading the text, I can relate it back to those pictures and images. A very good place to practice this skill is Scientific American. And you could practice in a library. You don't have to buy it. You can, or you can go to Barnes and Nobles. It's one of the best magazines for visual imagery. They do really good jobs with charts and diagrams. So just look at the pictures and the charts. Don't even read the article. And you'll see about 70% of the content is learned just from the pictures and the charts. And it just gives you practice using visual clues. And I know they have it in most Barnes and Nobles and almost every library. I mean, I have a subscription, but I don't think that's something you really need to do. But you just need to practice in a couple of editions. This is important. Very important man. This is Malcolm Knowles. He's one of the reasons we don't speak German today. We won World War II. He had a very important job. Reframing is looking at something you know differently. Very important skill. His job during World War II, women for the first time had to build the planes, the tanks, the guns, the explosives. Now you got to remember, this is in the middle of the 1940s. At that time, people's attitude towards women was not like it is today. Women were to have babies and stay in the kitchen and cook. I mean, I'm not saying that's a good thing. That is how they thought. So these women were the only ones here. The men were all fighting overseas. They were the only ones who could build the planes and the tanks. And they've never built anything like that before because they were women. How could they do it? So they couldn't do it. Things didn't work because they believed they couldn't do it. And they didn't know how to teach them to do it. He was given the job, fix it fast or we're not going to win. We need to build planes, we need to build tanks, and they're the only people who can do it. And you better get them thinking they can do this and have them do it or we're going to lose. He didn't know what to do. No one had ever had to do something like that before. Here's what he did. He was sitting in a factory, depressed, not knowing what to do. But he was a brilliant man, and he was sitting there, and he overheard two women speaking at the next table. And one woman turned to her friend and said, I don't know how to use the drill press. And he was like, ugh. And she says, oh, it's simple. It's like the mixing bowl in the kitchen, and when you pull the handle down, instead of spinning through the batter, it goes through the wood. Oh, that was the answer. We learn what we need to know based on what we already know. They knew about household appliances. So a kiln was an oven, and a laminator was an iron. And they would explain every tool they were using as a household appliance, which they were really good at using. And they realized there was a relationship between what they knew and what they were learning. And now they were able to build planes and tanks, and we won the war. Because they didn't get hurt anymore, and the things they built worked. It was a reframe from, I don't know how to do this, to, oh, I get it now. It's just like what I was doing in the house. That's how we learn. I'm going to show you how I did that for an oil refinery. It was an oil refinery in Baton Rouge that blew up. One of the tanks blew up. Remember I said people can't count? Some of them work at oil refineries. And they set a dial. Unfortunately, it blew the whole gas tank up with like 3 million gallons of gas, and they were there when it happened, which didn't work out well for them either. So they were killed, and they lost 3 million gallons of gas. Needless to say, they weren't happy about this. So they said, fix it. It's like Malcolm Knowles, make it go away. And I said, they already know. They didn't know how to do decimals, fractions, and percentages. This is a big problem, unfortunately, in our education system. I said, they know how to do it. They don't know they know how to do it. They need a reframe. Can you make change of $1? 0.25 is a quarter. It's 25 cents, 25%. 0.50 is a $half. it's 50%. 0.75 is 3/4. 75 and a penny is a 1% is a penny, and 5% is a nickel, and 10% is a dime. Can you do that? Yes. That's what decimals and fractions and percentages are. Stop thinking of the numbers as numbers and think of them as money and making change, something you already know. And when you do that, the numbers won't be confusing anymore. And that's how they learned to fix the problem. And that's how you learn things that are confusing. How is this like something I already know? How is this different from something I already know? Now I understand what I'm learning. That's how your brain learns new things. It reframes. When you're confused and on your own, not in school, here's what I do. I want to get more than one book. When I was learning calculus, I had like 4 review books because too many of the books would say, this is easy. It wasn't. This is obvious. Not to me. But the other book didn't do that. The other book explained it. So where one book gave me no help, a different book explained it with a different analogy or a picture or an example that I needed and made it make sense. And sometimes I needed 3 or 4 different explanations before one of them made any sense. And then I understood it. And then I was able to use it. So we don't rely on one book. We can go to several books. We can use search engines. I didn't have that when I was growing up. There were no search engines. You went to the library and it was hard. It was a lot of work to go to a library. Not like today, you push a button and everything pops up. But be careful because some of what's online isn't true. I think we found that out already. So what I like to also look at are the comments. So if 10 people say that's the dumbest thing I ever heard, I'm a little skeptical of the value of the data. And if 10 people say that's really what worked for me, tried it, did it, that makes me feel better. Like when you buy something and somebody says, worst pair of pants I ever had, I want a pair just like that, you know? So you look at those comments people have. That car just broke down on the way home. Me too. My car didn't even get off the ground. You're going to buy that car? No. So I look at what other people are telling me to see if there's value to the information. I ask people. Too many people are shy. I don't look stupid. You want to look stupid, get an F on a test or lose an important client because you were afraid to ask the question to someone who actually knew the answer to what you needed to know. I'd much rather do that like Russell has, bless you, in his office. There are no bad questions. There are no bad questions. You need to ask. And I ask experts, but when you ask an expert, make sure it's a good question. Don't say, what year did Columbus discover America? And you call a PhD up in the history department of your university. I don't think they're going to appreciate your phone call. But if you say, I'm doing research on the impact of Columbus's discovery on the indigenous tribes, can you give me some of your insights? And now you got some original material to throw into your report or your book that no one else had. Will they all do that? No. Some of them will hang up the phone. But when somebody spends their life learning something and you actually care about what they care about, and you ask enough people, you'll find a few people who are like, you really want to know what I know? Great. And they'll tell you. And they'll share it with you. If you're reading in a magazine, look at the contents page. Maybe some of those articles are more relevant than others. You don't have to read every article. Read the ones that matter to you. Embedded stories. A lot of magazines will have stories within the story, or a lot of your textbooks. So here's a good strategy for stories within stories. The first thing is, what's the main story? We could see it's the problem in Somali. The first thing I'll ask myself is, do I care? If the answer is no, I'm not going to care about the second story either. I'm done. The answer is yes. Before I read the first story, I read the second story, because the second story is why they went. I'd have a much clearer understanding of what happened after they got there if I knew what made them go there in the first place. So I skim the second story. At high speed, something I don't know won't make any sense. But if I heard it on radio or the television or in another magazine, it will make sense. So if I know what it means at high speed, I don't need to learn it. I know it. If I don't know what it means at high speed, I learn it first. So now I know why they went, now I read about what happened after they got there. That's how you use embedded stories. If you want to know what's in it, you read the second one first at high speed. If you don't understand it, read it. If you do understand it, you don't need it, you know it already. And that's how you handle that. Now there's also a model for footnotes. I love watching people read Shakespeare because it's Old English. It's really not that easy to read. And most people read from top to bottom. So by the time they're on the bottom of the first page, you can actually see the life draining out of their face. There's another 900 pages like this, and the report's due tomorrow. I think I'm going to kill myself. You know what I'm talking about. Here's the simple solution. Most of those books have footnotes. And what's in the footnotes? What the words mean. So before you read words, you don't know what they mean because they're like 2 million years old. Read the definitions on the bottom first. Now you know what the words mean. Now it isn't confusing. And now you could read it, the 900 pages really quickly. Doesn't that make more sense than getting aggravated? And then you get to the bottom, you don't even care it's at the bottom at that point. It's like, I don't care, I don't want to read this, it's terrible. But if you read that first, the problems would go away. So I always look at the footnotes, because what's in footnotes? Background, insight, significance. It makes the information on the page more meaningful. So especially in material that's confusing, it's going to be helpful to learn what's at the end, at the beginning. Makes more sense. They provide schema. Not everyone is taking tests, but you never know. There's certification exams. There's going back to school for another degree. We never know. So I'm going to teach everyone how to do exams. The first thing I do is I skim the whole test, like an index. At that speed, any question that made any sense at all, why did it make sense? What did I see? Something I recognize. Something I recognize. Which questions do you think I got a better chance of getting right? One where I recognized something or one which didn't register at all? When I recognize. So I mark off those questions I recognize with an X. If there's a limited time to do this test, those are the first questions I'm going for. That's the low-hanging fruit. I may not know all of them, but I'll probably get those a lot better than the ones where I didn't know anything about the other questions. I didn't even know what they were asking me. So I get all the easy questions first. That gives me more time to think and analyze the harder questions. Another very good strategy. In most tests, the essays are at the end. So you get to the end, you look at the essays, you got 10 minutes, maybe, sometimes 7 or 8 or 5, to do 3 or 4 essays. You don't have time at that point to go looking for help. You've got to keep writing till the time runs out to finish. So I read the essays first. Several things will happen. One, your unconscious brain now knows what it needs to do at the end. And what's it going to start doing while you're taking the test? Connecting the dots. It's going to look for what you know about that topic. While you're doing the other questions, it's running in the background, like on your computer. It's running in the background. It's already starting to help find the answers. The second thing is, on a thematic test, it's highly likely some of the questions in the test provide some answers for the essay. So let's say the essay is list the different blood vessels and their function. So now you know that's at the end, because you saw it. Here's a question in the middle of the test. Which of the following blood vessels pumps oxygenated blood away from the heart? Artery, vein, venu, or capillary? What did you just find? One of the answers. How do you know? You saw it. So you put a little note in the margin. This is helpful in my essay. Now when the essay comes at the end, you look for your note. And you get a much better grade because it gave you what you needed. What happened in the past, you had 5 minutes. I think I read something about 30 minutes ago in the test that could help me, but I don't know where it is. And I don't have enough time now to go find it. But if you marked it off when you found it, now you can easily find it and use it. Does that make sense? Can you see? That could be very helpful on essay exams. Very, very, very helpful. Now, when we're learning, there's actually 4 levels of learning. The awareness level is the big concept. The familiar level are the categories in the concept. The study level are the main examples in the categories. And technical is that black hole. It's like everything. That's why you need to pick if you're in school, your teachers as carefully as you pick your subjects. If everyone says that's the worst teacher in the history of teaching, you probably shouldn't be taking it with that person. If everyone says that's the best teacher I ever had, that's someone you want. You need to ask who's a good teacher and who isn't, because they're not all good. And if you go and take a course, my organic course, in most schools they curve. It's really hard. My teacher didn't believe in curving. He failed 165 out of 200 students. We had like 15 Ds and a couple of Cs and 2 Bs, no As. He didn't curve. He didn't believe in it. That was not a good teacher to take organic with. The only D I ever got in my life. On the curve, it was like a B minus, C plus, but he didn't curve. So it was really hard, the way he did it. So you have to know that. How do you get exams? You can ask for them, especially in college. So you guys have an old test. A lot of schools keep tests on file, even better. Or you can ask a friend, you had this guy last year, can you tell me about the test? Here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get a map of what this person's tests look like. And here's an example of what I would do with it. How many questions are, what is a disease kind of question? Main category. What is a disease? How many questions are, what are the 5 causes of disease? Virus, rickettsia, protozoan, bacteria, and fungus. Those are the 5. Lesson 3, level 3, what are the 3 different kinds of bacteria? That was last year. What if he says, what are the 4 kinds of viruses this year? List the different protozoan. I've seen the kinds of questions they've asked before. The kinds of questions. And I'm looking in my book and I'm saying, this is too simple. They never ask anything like this on any of the other tests. This is too hard. They never ask this. This is exactly like the 4 kinds of viruses, different kinds of fungus. They might ask the 3 kinds of bacteria again. But I could see the kind of questions they like to ask. And when I look in my book, this looks just like the kinds of questions they've asked before. And that's where my focus goes, on what they want, not what I want, because what's about school? Knowing the answers to the test. So if they're asking Trivial Pursuit questions, I could see what looks like Trivial Pursuit versus something serious, because based on that old test, this is what they're going to ask. In business, it's similar. You don't have tests, you have experience. Imagine I'm an electrician, and I've worked with Russell, and Russell's had me bid on a contract several times. Knowing what Russell's done in previous meetings, what should I expect him to want to know for this new bid? Knowing his pattern, I can project what he'll probably want now. He's consistent, he has a pattern. What if I don't know Russell, but it's someone like Russell? And I've worked with Russell. Based on my experiences with people like that, what should this person expect me to know? What if I have no experience? I'm doing something different. I find someone who knows Russell, or someone who knows someone like Russell and has done this kind of work for them, and I work with their experiences. I used to lecture with Zig Ziglar, and Zig would say, if you want to hit a target, you got to know what you're aiming at. You can't take a test if you don't know what to look for. If you don't know what the teacher or instructor is interested in asking, everything could be important, and it isn't. If you're going into business and you have no idea what the person's asked in the past at meetings, there's no way to know what's important, so you overwhelm yourself. But if you know this person has a pattern, These are the kinds of questions they ask, or people like him would ask. Then you have a pattern to work with. Your job is much simpler. It's looking for what matches the pattern. This is true in business too. People making programs and products. You're looking for patterns. And when you know the pattern, you're going to win. When you don't know the pattern, you're going to learn and learn and learn and learn, and you probably won't learn the one thing you needed to know. When I did the graduate course in educational psych in 7 hours, I got the old tests. One, I knew it was multiple choice. I didn't need to know the answers. What did I need to know? Recognize an answer. The answer would be there. I knew the answer would be there. I just had to know which one it was. That's different than an essay where I had to know the answers without anyone giving me any help. There's a different level of learning. So I'm looking at that, and now I'm a psychologist. It's educational psych. Do I need to learn the psych? No, I was really good at that. I had to learn the ed. I had no courses in ed. So I'm looking at who's making the test. What are they looking at? Anyone could take this test. So they can't make it too hard, because then no one passes it and he loses his job or she loses her job. They can't make it too easy, no one fails the test. It didn't measure anything. So it can't be too hard. It can't be too easy. It's multiple choice. Most of the questions are going to be the main categories and the main examples and some what is the disease kind of questions. The really detailed stuff, they can't do a lot of that because it would be too hard and no one would pass. That's something I can learn in 7 hours. And now it's multiple choice. There's a glossary with word identifications. If it's multiple choice, what's the likelihood that many of those questions are identifying words? Really high. And what do you think the test was? The vocabulary at the back and some thought questions that I anticipated. And that's why I did so well. I knew the pattern. I knew what I was looking for. I knew when I found it. Did I learn everything in the book? No. I learned everything in the book I needed to know to get a B+ in 50 minutes. That's all I wanted. I wasn't interested in the subject. I took it because they made me take it. I didn't want to take it. I had to take it or I would lose my license. And I didn't want to spend 5 months learning something I wasn't interested in. So I took a few hours to do it, but I did it the smart way. I knew what to look for. This is a way to finish school in 1/5 the time. Those of you who have kids here, please watch closely. Those at home that have kids or want degrees super quick, watch closely. CLEP, C-L-E-P, Google it. The CLEPs are AP tests. Too many of the schools, they actually use AP. Big mistake. Most colleges don't like AP. They don't accept it. CLEP they take, and it's funny, CLEPs are 90 minutes, AP is 3 hours. The same people make both tests. CLEPs are about $65. AP tests are a lot expensive. CLEPs are given every week. AP is once a year. How would you do that? So your youngster is in high school. They're learning American history. Who was the first president of the United States? They're in college American history. Who was the first president of the United States? What changed? It's $5,000 tuition. So while they're in high school, they just learn this much American history. In college, they'll learn that much more. That's the college leap. So they learn that much more. They know how to learn. Then they take the American history CLEP. They pass it. If they're in a CLEP-friendly college, and they're not all CLEP-friendly, most 2-year state colleges and most 4-year state colleges are friendly. You need to check. Private schools, it's different in each school. But if it's CLEP-friendly, you took the history CLEP, you passed it, you finished American history in high school. When you get to college, you don't need to take American history. You're done. Most of the kids in my school graduated with 20 to 45 college credits. Many of them went into college as sophomores, not as freshmen, doing it that way. So it's doable. It's very, very doable. That's the CLEP. Thomas Edison is an online college. It's part of Rutgers. They let you do 90% of your degree on CLEP. So anyone who wants a degree, doesn't want to travel, and wants to do it really fast, That's a shortcut. Thomas Edison. Now, Brad, I showed you he did college in 6 months. He went to Thomas Edison, clept out of 5 classes a week and did 1 online. That's hard. I'm not telling you that's easy to do. It's not. That's really hard. But he did it. It is doable. It takes a lot of work, effort, and dedication to do that. He was a missionary. He wanted to go do his mission work, and he needed a degree to validate that he was qualified to teach, and he just needed a piece of paper from an accredited school saying, yes, he's graduated, and it's a real school, and he did the work. So for him, it was a good choice. If you're trying to go to Harvard Law or medicine, this isn't the path you want to be taking, where you clip out of 90% of your courses. That's not the route you want to be on. For him, it was a good route. Dante's, like CLEPS, but done by the Department of Defense. Again, many schools that take CLEPS will take Dante's. You need to ask, do you take Dante's? Which ones do you accept? How many can I get? Same with CLEP. Do you accept CLEPS? Are there any CLEPS you don't accept? How many CLEP credits do you permit? It varies from one school to the next. So you don't want to do this till you know for certain the school you're intending to go to will accept it. What's the point of taking the test and passing it if the credits aren't accepted at your school? But when they are, it's a wonderful way to finish college a year or 2 early with a fraction of the expense. Now, that may not sound like a big deal, even though it is. Remember, most people take 6 years to do 4-year college. So you're doing it in 2.5 or 3. You're really doing it in half the time. It's not just a year early, it's 3 years early compared to everyone else. That's huge. It's really, really big. Dante's are things like, CLEP would be French and Spanish. Dante's would be Chinese and Russian. Dante's would be paralegal is a Dante. Comparative religion is a Dante. So many of the courses you would want to take, the CLEPs don't allow, the Dantes do. Even young kids, I mean, you're 11 or 13, in a lot of places they'll let you take the CLEP, if you're homeschooled especially, and it's a good way to go. It's a good way to go. Because if you're taking a course at home, I was talking to someone who's homeschooling, and you're a youngster, got a good grade on the CLEP, it's basically saying, yeah, they learned American history. They passed the college CLEP. It's not mom said they knew history. The CLEP said they knew history. Much more accepted to a college later on than mom and dad said, I'm really smart and you should take me. Okay, it's a lot better when a standardized test says, and they were right, and they were right. Excelsior University. Sometimes we start school and we don't finish. Someone got sick, parent needed help, financial. There's a whole lot of reasons. You don't want to start over from the very, very beginning. And that's often what you have to do. Here's a way around that. Within a 10-year window, you can go back, go to Excelsior, which is the New York State External Degrees Program. It's now called Excelsior. They'll look at the credits you've gotten in the past and put them in a bucket. And they'll say, okay, this is what you need to finish your degree. You could do it with CLEPS, you could do it with online, and you can go to the local college where you live and transfer the credits over. And when you get the credits you need for that degree, we'll give it to you. And it's a New York State degree, State University of New York degree, a real degree from the State University of New York. That's another way to work around. I don't want to start over again. I don't want to go back to where I was 10 years ago. I want to start from where I finished. That's one way to work that problem around. Last thing is life credits. That's a portfolio. Some schools, not all, accept them. Again, you have to ask. And if they do, who do they accept as the accreditor? Let me give an example. You're going for an MBA in marketing, and you spend your day marketing. I would think some of what you do is relevant to what they want you to learn already. So you put together a portfolio validating this is what I've already learned in marketing. And then it's given credit or not by the accreditor. And if the college accepts that, you finished those courses related to those types of marketing. Again, it's a shortcut. but not every school does it. And again, who do they accept and what do they accept? Personally, I'll tell you that CLEPs are easier for credit than life credit. It's a much bigger job to get a life credit validation than a CLEP. CLEPs are real easy. My kids, 20 to 45 CLEP credits when they got out of high school, most of them. Many of them stopped at 20 for a reason. If you go over 20 credits, if you go to 25, you're not a freshman, you're a sophomore. And you can't get freshman scholarships, which isn't the worst thing. They do have other scholarships you can get. But if that's a big part of your plan and you've got over 25 CLEP credits, you're going to lose that type of money. There's other things you can do, but that isn't one of them. That's why they stopped. And for others, it was like, I don't care about the scholarship. I want them to blow through college, and they did. Okay, so that's two ways to do that. Now, when you're learning on your own, something that's confusing or hard, I like to get books with summaries, questions, and vocabulary lists. Not every book does it. Doesn't mean I don't read the book. I prefer books that do this. And when you're writing a book, I recommend you do this because it makes it easier for people to learn. What's in a summary? Summaries are where in a chapter? Where do they usually end up? At the end. And what do they tell you? What you just learned and need to know. When would you want to know that? After you missed it or before you looked for it? Before you look for it. So if I know from skimming there's a summary, what am I going to read first? Why? I know what I'm looking for. And when I find it, what will I know? This is what I was looking for. It's important. You ever get to the end of a book and you're like, oh, I was supposed to learn that. I didn't think it was important. You're going to know it's important. It's in the summary. They wanted you to know that. That's also why I like questions. Here are the 10 things you should know how to answer when you finish this chapter. When do I want to know that? Before I finish the chapter or after? Before. Why? You know what I'm looking for. And when I find it, what do I know? I need to know it. So it becomes, that's my purpose. Do you see? There's my I need to know what they're telling me I need to know. How do I know? They wrote the book. I don't know anything. They wrote the book. They're telling me, here are 15 things you should know now. And I'm going to make sure that when I'm reading that chapter, there are 15 things that I'm absolutely going to find. There may be other things as well, but that's high on my list of things to look for. And 80% of learning anything, 85 is learning the words. So I love glossaries and word tables when you have them. I would recommend to Russell, I'm not being critical, put those in the book. That's one thing that could pump this up another level. Okay, it's a really good book. I'm not knocking the book. But I did that with I was working with Pfizer, which is the largest publisher in the world for human training materials, and they didn't do it. And I said, you need to do that. And it was the owner of the company that and they said, oh, it's the owner. It's like, I said, do you want me to tell you how to fix this, or do you want me to tell you it's perfect? This is my job is to make it better. And if you do that, it'll be better. So I told them that, and then they said, okay, and in the future they did that. So if you're writing anything like that, that makes it better. You could do what you want, but that will make it better. Here's things I'm looking for. A lot of times when I listen to people complain, it's like, I don't know what to look for. There's too much. What am I trying to find? I look for headers and headings, anything that makes it look different, anything that's not the same. Why isn't it the same? What did they make it look different for? To draw my attention. That Russell did really, really well. Really well. Lots of pictures, lots of charts, lots of diagrams. He really draws your eye to things that matter, and it makes it much, much easier to learn when that is being done. He's a very good writer, and one of the brightest people I've met. And I've met a lot of people. In his area, he's the best. I could say that with all honesty, not because he's my friend because he is the best, and I respect that. There aren't a lot of people out there like that, and you want those people in your life. They can change your life. the vocabulary, the names, the numbers, the main points, the questions. Those are the 5 things you always want to learn. Sometimes people say, what am I looking for? 5 things. Just 5 things. You learn these 5 things, you'll master any subject for the rest of your life. The words and what they mean. The people and what did they do. Any number, date, statistical formula. How do you use it and why is it there? In every book, there's headings, and every nonfiction book, there's headings, there's subheadings. What are the main ideas in each heading and subheading? If possible, 5. What are the 5 main takeaways in each section and subsection? And what are the questions and what are the answers to those questions? Questions and answers. If you know every word and what it means, every name and what they did, every number and how to use it, every one of the main points and every answer to every question, what else do you need to learn? Nothing. That's how those kids did a 30-chapter book in lifelong developmental psych in 1 week. That's what they were looking for. And I'm going to show you later how to do that. Oh, I'm going to show you now. See, I anticipated it. How would you like to learn how to learn a subject in 1/5 the time? Would that be helpful? Here's how you do it. You do a slice. Okay, normally, when we do a collaboration, I'll do chapter 1, you do chapter 2, you do chapter 3, you do chapter 4, you do chapter 5. And of course, it never works out very well. His dog ate his homework and he had the flu. There's all kinds of stuff happens, right? We didn't do that with our kids. Here's how we did it. There's groups of 5. In chapter 1, I'll find all the new words. You find all the new names. You do the numbers and the statistics. You find the main ideas and you find the questions and the answers. That's it. Just that one slice. The second chapter, I'll do the names. You do the numbers and we rotate. In the third chapter, we rotate. So we rotate 5 times. Each of us has done the words, the numbers, the names, the main ideas, and the questions. We've all had a shot in one chapter. So we're doing 1/5 of the chapter in each of 5 chapters. And the time it takes you to read 1 chapter, you just got the data for 5. 5 times faster. And you set up a table. And in the table, chapter 1, words, names, numbers, dates, statistics, main ideas, questions and answers. Chapter 2. So different people are filling it in. And now you got another group of 5 doing the next 5. And another group doing the next 5. How long does it take to learn a 30-chapter book 1 week? They were 11 to 15, and that's how they did it. They had 5 groups. They did the whole thing just like that, and in 1 week they took the CLEP and passed it. That's how you can blow through college. You get a group of friends together. You take the courses together. You could do it in high school too. They just have to have the maturity to do that. But that's a very fast, in a business, sometimes there's a law, a rule, a regulate, a training. You could cut the training time by 1/5 doing it this way. And everyone learns it. It's really, really powerful. For those watching, this is a great way to make your content super easy for other people to learn. Brain friendly. Using the tables. So you're looking, another thing you want to look at is fonts, colors, bolding, italic, pictures, tables, sidebars, summaries, wordless, anything different. If it's different, they put it there to grab your attention. So if you're like, I don't know what to look at that. I mean, if I open up Russell's book, even from back there, you could see, where do you think your eye is attracted to? Right here. Where's your eye going to look? You see it? Right here. You can't miss it because it's drawing your attention. And he does this over and over again on a lot of the pages. It's good. And he's chunking really well. He's got a box with the important things in it. This is exactly the right way to write a book. Things that matter. You can't miss what's important. He made it easy to find. You don't have to, what am I supposed to learn on this page? It's right there in a big box. in giant letters. That's the way you should be creating your content. I had one criticism, Russell, just one. You should have a vocabulary list at the end telling them the new words that they may not know. That would be the only thing I would make. I'm always looking for improvement. That would be the only change I would make. The other way, he did a really, really good job. He's using the fonts, he's using the bolding, he's using the tables. Those are the things that you want to look for, and then you know you found it. This is very important, emotional intelligence. Of all the skills that you can learn, this is the single most important. Imagine I'm teaching you how to drive, and you learned, and I said, you're ready, go get your road test. How many people have failed a road test who knew how to drive? How many people have gone to a test at work or school and performed poorly? Not because you didn't know the information, because there was a test and you got nervous. It's very, very common. What if it was possible to fix that and create a state? Would that be helpful? It is. And I'm going to show you how. You need a stand for this exercise. I'm going to show you how to get energy. Now, we had lunch. A lot of us got tired. We dropped a little. It's normal. I'm going to show you how to wake up. So if you're in a class late at night, you wake up. You're in a meeting, you wake up. You're going to school after a day of work, which a lot of you do. You wake up. Would that be helpful? Yes. So thank you. So that's what we're going to do. This one person agreed. That's good. I'll take it. We know the left side of the brain controls which part of our body? The right. I'm giving it. The right part of the brain then controls which part of our body? The left. All right. You're learning faster already. So if we take our left hand and touch our right shoulder, our right hand and touch our left, alternating, it's not just the Macarena without music. It's a brain massage. Do the same thing. Touch your opposite knee, right to left to right to left to right. Perfect. Now raise your right hand and squeeze your right thumb and say this like you mean it. I feel great.
I feel great.
And pull it down with enthusiasm and say yes. Yes. We'll do 3 sets of these. This is a good group. I mean, I sometimes go to Rotary where everyone's 99 years old and they'll go, I feel great. Yes. I guess if you're 99 and you can move your arm, that's it does have its. I was once at a meeting. The guy next to me was 92. The guy next to him was 93, and the guy next to him was 95. So I felt like the kid at the table, and I don't feel that way anymore very often. But I wanted to know what was in their water, because whatever they were drinking, it probably was something I wanted. We're going to do 3 sets of these, starting with the shoulder taps. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Knees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How do you feel? I feel great. Yes. A little faster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How do you feel? I feel great. Yes. As fast as you can go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How do you feel? I feel great. Yes. Give yourselves a big hand. Smile. Feel great and sit down. And I'll tell you what you learn. Do you know what happens when you do this 3 times? Nothing. Now, you probably would like something, so let me show you how that works. Remember Pavlov? We read about him earlier. Rang a bell, fed a dog, rang a bell, fed a dog. He rang a bell, and what eventually happened? Dog drooled. You don't want to drool, but you do want energy. What you've done is slow, medium, fast, left brain, right brain, both together, speeding it up. Your oxygen level got faster as you sped up. You woke up each time a little more than the time before, and each time you felt a little more awake, you went, I feel great. Yes, that's your bell. The latest studies show a habit takes 90 days, not 30 days, to create. So if you do slow, medium, fast every day, 90 days, now you're in an important meeting. You don't want to do this. It won't help. But you can grab your thumb under the table and say, I feel great, yes. And what would you feel? The way you felt just now. It becomes a conditioned stimulus and a conditioned response, so you can feel that way. In the same way, you can do relaxation. Music's a great way to create state. So you can play relaxing classical music that makes you feel really mellow, and then gently squeeze your left thumb and go, I feel relaxed, because you do. And you do that every day for 90 days. Now you have to do public speaking or something that makes you tense, take a test, and you want to calm down, and you gently squeeze your left thumb and go, I feel relaxed, and what would you feel? Relaxed. You could create all kinds of states: focus, concentration, inspiration, creativity. You create the state when you're in the state, and then you anchor the state to a trigger. And so the states that could help you succeed, you could create. One of the things I teach people who make products is, what are the states the people who use your product need to be in to succeed? And what states could interfere? And what are you doing to make those states happen that help? And what are you doing to help eliminate the states that interfere? And if you think about it, the answer for most people is nothing. I didn't even know I could do that. But if you did, if I was teaching you how to drive, and I also taught you how to stay relaxed during the road test, how many more people would succeed and get their licenses? If I taught you how to get a higher score on the SAT, and I taught you how to stay relaxed instead of nervous during the test, how much higher would your SAT score be? So it's all good examples like that that we don't really think much about, but they matter. And it's the difference often between success and failure, simply creating the right state. Now I'm going to show you how to adjust for different types of reading, starting with pleasure reading, which is the easiest. You don't skim. You don't want to know at the end of Gone with the Wind, Brett and Scarlett don't make it. Kind of kills the 4 million pages you're about to read. You don't review. Unless it's for school, and then it's not pleasure, it's study. It's not pleasure reading. Reading a novel for a book report is study, not pleasure. How do you optimize your speed and get pleasure? You don't chug Dom Perignon. You don't go to the Louvre and look at the Mona Lisa on a skateboard. And you don't read a sonnet in 3 seconds and feel the beauty of the written word. So how do we get the enjoyment back and the speed? Speed up the boring parts. How many of you read novels that got so boring, it's like, I can't read it anymore. It's just too boring. So what if you tripled your speed, watched the topic sentences and verbs and nouns in the boring part? You'd know what was happening, but you wouldn't care, which is a lot better than like, someone kill me, this is so boring, right? So you're not feeling the emotion, which is what you don't want when you're bored. And then when it looks like, oh, this is much more interesting, what do? You slow down and you savor it and you enjoy it. Because you sped through the boring part, you now have more time to savor the parts that really give you the enjoyment. I was reading The Mists of Avalon, which is about the Knights of the Round Table. And there's about 15 pages on the furniture in King Arthur's throne room. Every fork, spoon, knife, and napkin, every knight had a motif and different, and they were describing them in painstaking detail. I read it in 5 seconds. It said, nice throne room, and got back to the story. I didn't care about the napkins. I didn't care about the motifs. I was interested in the story. Now, someone else might have said, this is the best part. Look at all the beautiful napkins. Someone else may have felt that way, so they wouldn't have sped that part up. But I did, because for me, that was boring. And that's how you do it. Now, another problem you were having was forgetting what you read almost as fast as you were reading it. I want to start to fix that first for pleasure reading and then for more important learning. Imagine every chair in this room was a file cabinet. And every time you got a letter, they dumped it somewhere. Like they do in a lot of offices. And it's like, where's the letter? Nobody knows where it went. Your brain is a file cabinet. And how do you file things? Do you actually think where you put something? Or you just look at it and it goes in there someplace, and maybe when I need it, I'll find it again. You need to have a system. And so for pleasure reading, the system is atmosphere, plot, theme, and character. So here's Guinevere. She's very busy in my book. And there's Lancelot, and there's Arthur. First thing is, just like I did earlier, what does she look like? Doing those senses like we did with Paul Revere. What does her perfume smell like? What does her voice sound like? If I held her hand, what would she feel like? The more senses I can engage, the more real it becomes, the more it becomes an experience and not just words passing on a page. Similar when you're in a really good movie and you forget you're in the movie. You're experiencing it as if it's happening to you and someone you really care about. You've lost the sense of time and space. It's real. Those are the movies you really walk out and say, that was amazing. That's what every book needs to be like. It's an adventure. It's an experience. You lose yourself in it. And you come out and say, that was amazing. And that's what I'm doing. So now when I want to remember, first is, what does she look like? And that's where I put everything she did. I play the movies, and back comes the data. That works great for fiction. For nonfiction, it could be used as well, but different questions. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. So let's try that with John Kennedy. With the Cuban Missile Crisis, who was he? What did he do? Where, when, why, and how? Now, if I switch the question to, in the Dallas assassination, who was he? What, where, when, why, and how? And notice the questions create a completely different answer. And this is great for newspapers, magazines, where I'm not trying to become a doctor or a professor. I just want to know what's going on, get a sense of what's happening. I don't need the names of each person and their birthdays and their life histories. I just need to know what happened and why is it important to me. So it's the big picture, and I can do that very easily. With how-to books, this is usually you. I want to learn Russell's secret. I'm not getting tested on it. I'm not having a professor ask me questions about it. It's for me. I want to make money, and this man knows how to make money, a lot of it. And I want to know what he's doing that I'm not doing, and I want to do it. So I bought it for me. I know what I want. I know what I want to be able to do when I'm done reading this book. So I know what to look for. And I know when I found it. So I skim it quickly to see what's in it and what I really want. I focus on what's important to me. And I spend a little time taking notes on the things that I really want to know how to do. This is step one, and this is step two, so on. There's definitely steps at the end of the book. He goes through funnels, step by step, slide by slide. I would take notes on that. I'm going to show you how to do that before we leave today. There's a really good note-taking system I'll teach you. But it's for me. So I don't need to know everything. I may not need every one of his strategies. There's the domino, there's the big why, there's the epiphany bridge. Sometimes I may only need one of those things for what I'm doing right now. And that's what I'm going to look at. The rest of it, is it good? Yeah, but that's not what I'm doing today. That's not what I want in my particular funnel right now in my campaign. Studying is somebody else is going to be asking the questions. This isn't just for me anymore. There's a teacher, there's a client, there's a prospect. Somebody else is going to be asking me when I'm done, what about this? What about this? I really need to know this. I need to know a lot. I skim to get the big picture. The only time I don't skim is in a novel for pleasure, so I don't kill the story. Then I read half the time, and half the time is reviewing and analyzing what I didn't understand and making it meaningful, getting other books, asking questions, finding other sources of data that fill in the blanks where they made it sound like it was easy and wasn't. I find someone who explains it better and they explain it better to me, and now I get it. And also that's where I do my memory skills, which I'll teach you today as well. Technical reading, law, medicine, engineering. You don't read Gray's Anatomy and then say, oh my God, what a beautiful description of a kidney, and start to cry. You actually want to know how to use a kidney and what the parts are. So I skim, see what's there. I only read 10% of the time. 90% of it is taking notes. I've got lots of words, lots of numbers, lots of statistics, specifics, details. I need to know this. This isn't a reading assignment. This is a learning assignment. I stop reading as soon as I find what I need and I learn it. It's very different. You can still do it very fast. Lots faster than you did. Now, for subjects like math, science, you skim. My first question, and let's say it's a calculus book, the first thing I'll ask myself is if I actually understood how to do what's in this chapter, what would I know how to do? Sort of like we did earlier. So if I learn this, what would I know how to do? And then it's get the big picture, and then it's steps. Most of science is a cookbook. And this is step 1, and this is why I'm doing it. And this is step 2, and this is why I'm doing it. And this is step 3, and you're copying it. Now close the book, and without looking, then this is the third step, and this is what I need to do. And this is the second step, and this is why I need to do it. And this is the third step, and you're learning the recipe. And that's what science and math is. They're basically cookbooks. This is how you make this happen. This is how you make this happen. These are the steps. And you could change the ingredients. You could put in more. You could take some out. But it's a formula, and it's basically a recipe. And once you see it that way, like the women who saw the kiln as an oven or a laminator as an iron, you're seeing it in terms of what makes sense to you. And it does. Now, the last thing I want to look at, computers. Much more reading is going to be online. It's just the way it is. It's moving more and more away from physical text. There's some upside and downside. Studies show physical books are learned and retained better because there's a topography. When I'm here, I know I'm near the end. I can feel it. When I'm here, I know I'm near the beginning. I can feel it. You can't feel that on an e-reader. So the actual physical texture and the actual layout of the page is missing on a lot of those devices. It does matter. Nevertheless, you're not cutting down a tree, and if you're on a plane, you could take 300 books on your e-reader and only one in your backpack. So there's an upside and a downside. What I do on the computer screen is I use my mouse. I have to have a scrolling wheel, and I move the mouse back and forth and down so the cursor goes back and forth and down like your hand did on the page, and I'm scrolling, so the page is moving. And so the mouse and the cursor become the hand. If I see something very significant, I block and copy it, and I put it in a table. I take notes that way. If I'm on an e-reader, some of them have a highlighter function, some of them don't. If they do, I highlight what I want to remember. If I don't, then I have to take notes, either on another device or using one of the systems I'll teach you in a little bit. And that's how you use electronic pages. There's 3 different things. Could be an e-reader, could be a book, could be a computer screen, or could be a telephone, which is like an e-reader shrunk down. Same difference. First, memory strategy. This is really important. This is how I did the 6 science courses at the same time. Remember the 5 things we wanted to learn? Words, names, numbers, dates, statistics, main ideas, and questions and answers. Those are what go on the card. On one side is the word, the other side is the definition. On one side is the name, on the other side is what they did. On one side is the number, date, statistical formula, and the other side is how to use it or why it's important. On one side is the main idea, and the other side is what does it mean. On one side is a question, and what's on the other side? the answer. That's what I'm doing, making cards. I like to use 4x6 or 3x5 cards. So if I'm learning Spanish, hola, what does hola mean? Hello. And there it is. I flipped it. Okay, I'm actually learning German now. Just starting it. I want to learn German by the end of the summer. A friend of mine's in Germany. He's got a list of 69,000 names. And he said, if I can learn German, I can make a lot of money in Germany. So what am I going to do? Learn German. Like, don't make excuses. It's too hard. It's too much. Just do it. If you want to do something, do it. Don't whine and complain. Do it. And then you have something happening in your life. Nothing's going to happen if you don't do anything. Next one. Agilis Phoenicius, who remembers? There it is. And that's how I learned it, by the way. Just like that. Next one, zinc. What did zinc weigh? 65.37. So you can learn that table. You could have each of the elements, and on the other side is the atomic number or the atomic weight. So, do you think you'd remember all of them the first time you did this? Probably not. I don't think I would either. But you like to know how to learn it when it's hard like that. When you make a mistake, you ever try spelling a word aloud and found you couldn't, but you could write it? How can you write it if you don't know how to spell it? There's a reason. When we speak, do we speak letters or words typically? Words. When you write, do you write letters or words typically? Letters. What's spelling? Letters or words? Letters. And which part of your brain remembers spelling better? The part that writes letters or the part that talks words? So the part of your brain that remembers spelling is the part of your brain that moves the pencil. Different parts of your brain do different things. So when I make a mistake, I get a pad and I write out the correct answer 25 times. Hola means hello. Hola means hello. And I say it. So I'm writing it. Repetition is an important part of learning. Say it again. Repetition is an important part of learning. So I'm repeating it 25 times. Hola means hello, hola means hello, hola means hello. And I'm writing it, I'm seeing it, I'm saying it. And what else am I doing? I'm hearing it. Most of you, when you study, you see it. Looking on the hola, hello, hola, hello. Oh, and you're just looking. All you're doing is looking for a second, 2 seconds. Boy, I hope I remember this tomorrow. What have you done to make it stand out? Nothing. You looked at it for 2 seconds. But if you're writing out only the ones you got wrong, only the ones you don't know, 25 times, writing it, saying it, seeing it, hearing it. Put it on a do-over pile. Keep going. When you're done, what do you think you do with the do-over pile? You do it over. You shuffle the deck and you do it again and again and again till there isn't one card left. You've learned everything you need to learn in that subject. Now, at the end, every day, all the new things, you could do that in Russell's book, by the way. There's a lot of really good details in there, like the slides to use in the perfect webinar. You need to write down slide 1, what does it do? Slide 2, what does it do? Slide 3, what does it do? Don't presume you know. You don't until you actually do. And you write it down, you take notes. And now you know which slides do what. And now you do what you just learned. And when you get it, and at the end of each day you do this. You take all the new things to that day only. But once a week, everything from the beginning of your project. So what you learned 2 weeks ago, the deck gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You say, well, I can't do it, it's so big. How long does it take to know hola means hello? How long? Second? How long should any of those cards take if that's what you need to know? A second. Only the cards you don't know will you be doing the other steps with. And so you're filtering what you don't know from what you do know. What's the point of learning? To learn what you know or learn what you need to know and don't know yet. This is filtering the things you know and don't need to learn from the things you have to know and don't know yet. And then you're using more of your brain to learn it by stimulating more of your senses. Does that make more sense than looking at a page for 2 seconds and hoping maybe you'll remember it tomorrow? Do you see the difference? You could do massive amounts of learning doing it. Languages. Each verb, you could have the present tense of a verb. You put down the verb and say present tense. Another card is past tense. Another card is future tense. And you have all the conjugations on one card for each tense. And that way you've learned your verbs. You can learn your nouns. You can learn your adjectives. You could learn a language really fast doing it this way, really fast. Now I'm going to show you one of my funnest things to learn. I'm going to give you 10 things to remember. I won't show you how. And then I'll show you how to instantly remember them backwards and forwards effortlessly. You want to remember pole, shoes, tricycle, car, glove, gun, dice, gate, cat, bowling pins. How many know all 10 things backwards and forwards effortlessly right now? But you will in 3 minutes. That's how easy this is with a system. You saw how well your system worked, now try mine. What the Romans discovered, actually the Greeks discovered, and the Romans improved upon, a shortcut for learning lists. If you take a list you know and relate it to a list you don't know but want to know, it takes less time. So we're going to make a relationship between a list we know and 10 things we want to learn. How many of you can count to 10? Raise your hand. I hope every hand goes up, please. Okay. We're going to use the numbers from 1 to 10 to learn 10 new things super fast. Watch. A 1 looks like a pole, big tall 1, doesn't it? What's 1? Do this with me. It's not just an exercise. This is a tool, a real tool you can use. 2, how many shoes do you have?
2.
What's 2?
2.
What's 1?
4.
Excellent. 3, how many wheels on a tricycle?
3.
What's 3?
Tricycle.
What's 2?
Shoes.
What's 1?
4.
Getting smarter. 4 is a car. How many tires are on a car?
4.
What's 4?
Car.
What's 2?
Shoes.
2. Shoes. 1.
4.
3.
Tricycle.
I'm jumping on purpose. We're not memorizing, we're associating. It's a different kind of memory. 5 is a glove. How many fingers in a glove?
1.
What's 5?
Glove.
What's 3?
Tricycle.
What's 1?
4.
Excellent. 7 and 6. 6. They love these in Texas. Don't ask me why. Gun. 6 gun. 6 is a gun. What's 6?
Gun.
4.
Car.
2.
Shoes.
Perfect. 7. Lucky and dice, at least on the first throw. 7. Dice. What's 7? What was 5? Glove. 3? 1. You're almost there. Rhymes work. Say 8 skate.
8.
What's 8?
Skate.
6. What did they love in Texas? Guns. 4.
Car.
2.
Shoes.
You're almost done. How many lives does the cat have?
9.
What's 9?
Cat.
What was 7 lucky in?
9.
5.
Glove.
3. 1.
4.
Last one, 10 bowling pins. How many pins in an alley?
10.
What's 10? Let's do the 10 numbers you didn't know how to do. 1,
4.
2,
Shoes.
3, 4,
Car.
5, 6,
Gun.
7,
Dice.
8,
Skate.
9.
Cat.
Well, it's 10. How does it make you feel? Great. When you feel great, do that. I'll tell you a quick story about that. I was on the longest running show in history, the Joe Franklin Show. He was 48 years, one person. There's been longer running shows, but not one person. And I was on the last 3 weeks, so I got to ask him his secret. He was sitting right here. I said, Joe, what did you do to get the longest running show in history? I asked him during the break, and he looked at me and he said, sincerity. And when you can fake that, you can do anything. And I want you to know no one can fake sincerity for 48 years. I don't care who you are. Nobody's that good at faking. And people know when you care and when you don't. So one of the most important things in business is sincerity, I think. When people know you're there to help and make a difference and not just what's in it for you. What's in it for you is making their life better, and then it works, then you get the reward. That's the right way to do business. How do we use this? Imagine you're learning the value of pi is 3.14. You learn it in school. No one remembers it because it's a weird number. Here's how to remember numbers. You just learned the secret to learning numbers. I'm going to teach it to you. Instead of learning the numbers, you make pictures out of the numbers. 3 is a tricycle. 1 is a pole. 4 is a tricycle hits a pole on a car. Can you see that? A tricycle hits a pole on a car. Tricycle, what number? Hits a pole on a car. What number do we got? Pi. Tricycle, pole, cars, pi. And that's how you learn numbers for school. Could be history, could be math, could be science, in business, due dates, percentages, products, SKU numbers. The 0 is the 10 bowling pins. So you have all the pictures you need to learn any number and make a movie out of it and link the numbers together, and now it's easy to learn numbers. That's how you learn numbers. 3.14, tricycle, pole, car. Music. Your brain has a beat, 1 beat per second. Lots of music has that beat. One of the most common and most well-recognized is Pachelbel's Canon. It's what they play in every junior high music recital. It's 1 beat per second. So I'm going to pretend clapping my hands, it's the music. You need 2 MP3 players. One plays the music, the others, for 4 seconds, you say what you want to remember. It needs to be vocabulary, nothing else. And for 4 seconds, you're quiet. The word hola means hello. And for 4 seconds, you're quiet. Zinc weighs 65.37, and you're quiet. Now, I wouldn't mix my Spanish and my chemistry unless you're in Guadalajara. And what you can do is use this to learn new vocabulary words. And when can you learn them? In your car, when you're driving using your MP3 player, when you're working out, when you're exercising, when you're walking your dog or doing house errands, playing your music player. So you can learn words that you never had time to learn when you're doing other things, which means you'll have more free time to do other things afterwards because you got the job done. It's not for learning ideas. It's for vocabulary. Very powerful technique. Another thing you can do is use music when you're tired and need to do some more learning. It happens. I'd prefer if you spaced it out, not try to do it at the last minute, but sometimes you don't have a choice. It was Saturday night, it was 1 a.m, and I'm learning about zoea, which are crustacean larvae. It's as exciting as it sounds. Learning can be difficult when you're tired, but our brain loves to play. So I made songs and jokes that made it easy to learn. Zoea, I've just seen a thing called zoea. The name almost sounds like diarrhea. And guess what? It was on the test. And 4 people got it right. And that was in 1968. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one who still remembers it because I made it interesting and fun. Now, I don't think you can do 2 or 3 extra hours of work like that. Bless you. But you might get another hour of work done when you're really tired, and you must get it done. You don't have an option. This is a good way to kind of stretch a little and get a little more accomplished. We did the pegging. This is another one, mnemonics. When you learned the colors of the rainbow in school, you learned Roy G. Biv, which was the first letter of each letter is the first letter of a color. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. But you can do that on your own. I did it for biology. There are 9 characteristics of a living system. That's hard to learn because the brain only likes to learn 7. I talked about that earlier. So I made a nonsense word, sim, igor, sac. Specific organization, metabolism, movement, irritability, growth, reproduction, specialization, adaptation, control. Now again, I learned that in 1968, but I remembered it because I made it a mnemonic and it's stored. If I just learned 9 things like most people do, would I remember it from 1968 and 2017? No. You can see how powerful this is. You can learn large chunks of information in a fraction of the time. You could also use it to learn things like, remember artery, arterial, capillary venue? My son's name was Alex, so AACVV. Alex always calls voluptuous villains. A, artery. A, always arterial, calls capillary, voluptuous venue, villains, vein. The words to the left of capillary are the blood moving away from the heart. Words to the right of capillary are blood moving towards the heart. So not only do I have all the parts, but where it's going away and oxygenated and where it's going towards. And then I also have the sizes. Big, small, smallest is capillary, small, big, venue, vein. So look at all the data. I cache it in one sentence to memorize. You can see how powerful this could be when you need to learn something. Like the different slides in Russell's deck when you go to that. There's a lot of ways you can cut and slice stuff like this. It works. You actually have three memories: short, intermediate, and long-term. Your real goal is to get as much as you can into long-term memory. Short-term memory is only a few seconds, a minute or two. Intermediate's a couple of hours. Here's the problem. You study incorrectly, and you think you learned it because you remember it all night, and the next day you get the same question you knew last night, and you're like, how could I not know it? I knew it yesterday. You didn't get it into long-term memory. It was an intermediate memory. So how do you get it into long-term memory? Repetition. Very important. Long-term memory is proteins that are being deposited in regions of the nervous system and actual neural web structures. It doesn't happen by looking at it once. Repetition changes the structure of the web so that ultimately you actually do know it. Cramming is the problem. When you cram, your brain learns for the few hours that you did it, but the next day it's gone. You didn't give your brain time to store it into long-term memory. But by doing it in smaller chunks and repetition, it's easier to learn. The ideal size of a list is 7. The brain learns 7. Remember 7? We used that number several times. The first 2 things on a list are easily remembered. The last 2 things on a list are easy. So if you have 7, there's very little in the middle. First 2 or 3, the last 2 or 3, just 1 in the middle. So if I have 49 things to learn, I'll make 7 lists of 7. I won't learn 49 because then I'll have 2 or 3 at the beginning and 2 or 3 at the end and like 43 things in the middle. Do you see the difference? Chunking. Ask questions. That's what engages your brain. That's what creates the curiosity. It creates the motivation, makes you think. You form associations and you learn. Don't ask questions and your brain's just passively looking. It's not involved with the learning. There's no reason why it should stick. You've given it no reason to want to remember it. This is a study done by Ebbinghaus many years ago, and he found that within 4 to 6 hours of learning anything, you delete 40 to 60% of whatever you learned, no matter what. But he also found every time you repeat it, repetition, you remember more until you don't forget. And that's the secret to learning. Repetition is an important part of learning, which is why I love those cards, because it's ideally set up to provide you with just the stimulation you need to learn precisely what you want to learn. It's very powerful. Would you agree that to become successful, you'd want to model successful people? So for the people watching at home, I have something very exciting to share with you. Did you learn something useful today? Would you like to be my protege and learn how to teach this as a business opportunity? I'm going to show you what I have, and I think you'll be what if I helped you get the money to do it as well? I'll help you make the money. I'm going to show you what I have. Become my protege. I made over $65 million with my program. I showed you the infomercial was just one piece. First, I will personally train you in how to teach my reading program. I have it all set up online. You could play it over and over again. First, it's the program, and then why does it work step by step? What's going on? What's the science? So you understand how and why it works. Then I'll give you a license to sell all my programs with 100% markup. So one of the things Russell talks about in his experts book is there's 2 ways to become successful. One is have a lot of product. The other is find someone with a lot of product. And there's nothing wrong with doing both. I have a lot of product. And a lot of you have a lot of names on your list. So you can use that list you already have that's already buying your things and add my things and make some money, some real money. And I'll give you access to all of my programs for your personal use, and I'll show you what that means in a minute. I also have my own TV show in Dallas, and if you'd like to come and be on my show, you get a real good 3-camera shoot, a professional 3-camera shoot. You could use that on your Facebook page or your LinkedIn page as it's basically an infomercial. You're going to tell me what questions to ask. I'll ask the questions, and then you get the video. So as a bonus, I'll also have training webinars, how to be a media magnet, how to market and sell products, how to create profitable workshops. And here's where I'm going to run a webinar. What we did today, I have a workshop on how to learn anything faster. And I have a referral link, an affiliate link to the video. So you could send people to that video, and when they go, I'm going to give you a 40% commission. But it's actually better, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to not take any commission until you make back your investment. And a lot of people will take their percentage at the beginning. I'm going to help you make the money that you're paying today so it doesn't cost you anything and you can make the money back really quickly. And then we'll record that so it's an evergreen and you can use it over and over as a cash spigot. So until you break even, I'm not taking anything. When you break even, then we'll do a 60-40 split. That's fair. Here's my program. There's reading, writing, memory, and math. The reading program, we guarantee you'll read 100% faster. For your kids, they'll get higher grades. For you, you'll make more money and stay competitive. You'll learn the things you need to know. And by the way, it's a great way to review what you just learned and play it over again and refresh your brain. Because as you know, repetition is an important part of learning. I can't change that. That's true. The writing program is how to get rid of writer's block, get into flow, switch on your creative state, even how to read people like a book. You ever felt you were talking in AM, they were in FM? There was a reason you were. And there's a way to identify their wavelength, tune in, and write your copy and present to them on their exact frequency level to increase your close rate and create more rapport. And also complete writing projects on time. The memory program, I gave you a little taste, but it's actually 2.5 hours on learning names, facts, details, even languages, and more. The math program, I'll show you some speed math real fast, show how that works. 103 times 107. You should have the answer now with no calculator. It's that easy. Let me show you how easy this is. How much bigger than 100 is 103? 3. Write that down next to the 103. How much bigger than 100 is 107? 7. Write it down next to the 7. Multiply the two differences. What's 3 times 7? 21. Write it down. Almost done. Add diagonally. What's 103 plus 7? 103 plus 7 is 110. What's 107 plus 3? It's always the same answer. So whichever way is easier, do that first. 103 times 107 is 11,021. That's how hard math should be. That's speed math. So we have an entire program on how to do math super fast. So this is valued at $497. You'll have complete online access. We also have it on DVD. Now, these are all the programs that you're going to be able to resell and get as my protege. I have 12 advanced lessons. What you just learned is the beginning. You can get another 12 lessons to learn more hand motions, speed up drills, how to learn science, how to learn history. We didn't have time. We did a lot, but we didn't have another 12 hours right now to cover this. So I made it an hour a month, and it keeps increasing the success you've already had. focus and concentration. It takes about 30 minutes to teach. When I was on television, I had an earpiece. And I was reading a 1,500-page bill that was like it's the most boring thing ever written in the history of mankind. While Nancy Pelosi and John Boehner and Cantor were on the screen talking, much more interesting than the bill. But I can't listen because I have to memorize the bill and talk about it. So I tuned all that out by learning how to concentrate. But when Neil said Howard, had to instantly wake up and answer his question. So I had to be able to filter out everything but my name and then speed memorize 1,500 pages at the same time. You can't normally do that, but with the right concentration and focusing skills, it can be done. And I didn't teach it today because it takes 30 minutes. And we didn't have an extra 30 minutes. So that's why I put it in the advanced program. That's 247. I have a monthly newsletter with strategies that'll help empower you. Remember, these are all things you can be selling. It's not just that you're getting these. These are products and services you can give to your existing list, and I'm going to help you market it. I have a millionaire marketing mastermind. I learn fast. I can read 10 books in 3 hours. So I learned Photoshop in 3 hours. I teach it in an hour. How to make cartoons, I put it in a program. How to make publication rights work. How to make a membership site or a marketing site. Whatever it is you need to know, it's in a 1-hour video. So I have 12 of those videos that you can use for you. And again, it's a product. This is a big one, how to write a book in a day. I wrote a book in 5 hours. It went #1 on Amazon the next day. And it's not just a book. At one time, you can do a DVD, an audio video with an activity book, a book, an ebook, and a webinar all at the same time in one day. So you got all these different products that you can now sell. And 1 year, I made 40 products in 1 year. I was making on average 3 a month. Some months I did more, but I was averaging 3 products a month. How to unlock your genius, connect dots, become intuitive, see the patterns everyone else is missing that are right in front of you, so you can make new products and solve problems, stay ahead of your competition. So the total value is $6,358. I'm charging $29.97 to license you, to be my protege, teach my course, get paid for it, how to resell all of the programs, and we'll do a live workshop to your list, and you keep all the money until you get back your investment. So I'm making it as easy as I can, and then I'll video that so that you can use it as an evergreen. So it's saving you $33.61. You have a total satisfaction guarantee. I give you my cell phone. I don't have an assistant. I just have me. And you get my cell phone. Text me and I'll make sure you learn it. So you're actually getting me as your personal tutor. And you could save $33.61. doubleyourreading.com/protege. And then you can become my protege. It's more than just money to me. We look at what's happening in the world and how many problems there are. I know this is helping people because you could see from your own experience what it could do. You know people I don't know, and they need this. I'd like to think with more and more people helping me and teaching this, we could reach more and more people, help make them a little smarter, able to connect more dots, make better decisions. That can make a big difference in our world. I think one of the reasons people are struggling, I see a coal miner trying to stay in coal mining, it's like, I want to be good at making 8-track tapes. It's probably not a good decision to want to be in the 8-track tape business today because there aren't any. And that's what's happening in a lot of these fields. They're disappearing, but there's new opportunities. Every time something disappears, something else comes along. And so I'm looking at a way to teach people how to learn so fast and so well. No matter what happens, they can learn something new and change and retool instead of go broke, which is happening to too many people today. You hear it everywhere. It's on the news, it's everywhere. This is the answer, it's learning. So please, if you're watching, go to wreading.com/protege. Sign up. I will help you make the money. Until you make your money back, you won't have to pay me anymore. You'll keep whatever your sales are till you break even, and then I'll take a 40% split. But not on the workshop. On the workshop, you keep everything when you teach it. The only thing I ask people to do is make sure they get my online reading program. So I know at least once they were able to learn it from me too. And we split that. That's the training material. You keep everything from the seminar, and we split the training material fee together. Everything else you keep. So if that sounds like something that you could see getting on board with, helping make a better world, making money doing it, helping kids get higher grades in school, helping businesses and professionals make the information they use easier, helping seniors stay mentally fit. And yes, you can resell this to a school. We have a different price structure. What I've been doing in most schools, I charge $2 a child per month. Most schools don't have a lot of money, but $2 per child per month a parent can afford, and they get full access to the program, the learning system. Well, if a school has 1,000 kids, that's $2,000 a month times 10 months. Figure 3 or 4 schools, you're making a pretty good income on $2 a month. And we'll take a little piece each, and we'll help those people get through school and have a better life. So please, get online, doubleyourreading.com/protege. You'll get my phone number. I'll personally help and mentor you. I'll make sure that you're able to be successful. We'll do this together, and we'll make a better world and make some money too. There's nothing wrong with getting paid for making a better world, as long as you actually do that. Thanks, everyone. Look forward to seeing you again in the future. Look forward to coming back to Boise again and working more with Russell. Till next time, it's Howard Berg wishing you and yours the best of success. Take care.
Let's give Howard a good round of applause.